Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to crack open YCombinator's playbook for building a killer AI startup. We're going to cover the big stuff, how to break into a market, how to make that painful call to pivot, and of course, how to scale your team the smart way.
All right, let's dive right in. YCombinator, they boiled the entire founder journey down to just two magic tricks: figuring out who you're selling to, and then actually getting their attention. It's a great reminder that having amazing tech is only half the story. The real trick is mastering the market.
Okay, first up, how do you even get your foot in the door? I mean, how do you break into some old school industry like accounting or law when your huge, world-changing AI vision isn't exactly ready on day one?
So, the YC playbook lays out three main ways to do this. Now, buying a firm, that's kind of the high-risk, high-difficulty long shot. For most startups, the real choice is between the first two.
And this is where you hit that fundamental trade-off, right? Do you just sell software and stay nimble, hoping other companies adopt your tech? Or do you go all in, start your own firm, and get total control, but also take on all the headaches of running an entire operation?
Now, if you do go down that path of starting a new firm, let's say you're building a tech-enabled accounting firm, this number, the percentage of work you've automated, becomes everything. It is your single most important metric. It's what proves you're a tech company, not just another service provider.
In this quote, man, it just perfectly captures the investor mindset. They're not just funding another service company that gets bigger by hiring more people. No, they are betting on your ability to crank that automation rate up and prove you can scale with software, not just a bigger payroll. That's the metric that sends your valuation soaring.
All right, let's shift gears and talk about something really, really tough. Probably one of the most gut-wrenching decisions any founder has to make: the pivot. And we're not talking about a pivot when you're failing. We're talking about that awful choice to change direction when you actually have paying customers, but you're just stuck.
Yeah, and this is the absolute key, right? We're not talking about pivoting when you have zero traction. No, we're talking about abandoning something that's actually working, that people are paying you for, because you have this nagging feeling that it's not working well enough to be huge.
And to really get how high the stakes are here, just look at the story of Firefall. This was a YC company pulling in hundreds of thousands of dollars in recurring revenue from big-name clients, and they still made the incredibly tough call to pivot.
So what happened? What made them change? Believe it or not, it was an internal tool they built for themselves. They'd built this custom web crawler for their main product, and they pretty quickly realized that this little side project was actually solving a way bigger, more painful problem for people than their original idea ever did.
And that brings us to the really crucial insight here. Revenue does not always equal value. Just because people are paying you doesn't mean they need you. Is your product just kind of useful, or is it totally indispensable? That's the question you have to keep asking yourself, relentlessly.
So these are the red flags you got to watch out for. Growth feels like pulling teeth. Your customers seem kind of meh about the product, and when you ask 10 customers what you do, you get 10 different answers. These are all signs you have a good business, but maybe not a great one. And the biggest sign of all, when you feel your own belief in the idea starting to slip. Which, of course, leads to the big question: what actually separates a good idea from a truly great one? How do you really know if what you're working on has that home run potential? Okay, so imagine this. You've hit a massive technical wall. Building your idea feels almost impossible, and you're seriously thinking about pivoting to something easier. But the advice here from YC is, well, it's pretty surprising.
The thinking is, that super high technical bar, that's not a bug, it's a feature. It's basically a giant moat around your business, because if it's ridiculously hard for you to build, it's going to be ridiculously hard for anyone else to even try to copy you, which gives you a massive head start if you can pull it off.
So really, it all boils down to this: pain and passion. A good idea is just a nice to have, but a great idea, that's a must have. It solves a real burning problem for your customers. And just as important, it's an idea that you, the founder, are completely obsessed with solving.
Okay, so let's say you've done it. That obsession has paid off, you found your great idea, and it's working. But guess what? The problems don't stop. They just change. Now you've got to scale, and that brings up the all-important question: when is it actually time to start hiring people? And this is such a classic founder trap, right? Hiring too early, sometimes just to look good or because you think you're supposed to, can absolutely kill a young startup. And here's a super simple but really powerful rule of thumb they offer. If you have a lot of free time to sit around and think about your hiring strategy,
it's almost certainly too early to hire.
You see, the real signal to hire isn't some detailed strategic plan. It's that gut feeling that things are literally about to break. You're so swamped you don't even have time to schedule interviews. That's when you hire. The only exception? When you get a shot to hire the smartest person you know. You just do it.
And this right here shows a huge cultural shift in the startup world. A decade ago, it was all about how many employees you had. Headcount was the status symbol. But now, with AI and automation, efficiency is the new flex. The goal isn't to build a massive team. It's to build a massive company with a tiny, super effective one.
So there you have it. The YC Playbook gives you this incredible framework for thinking through the startup journey. But knowing the plays is just the first step, right? Executing them is the real challenge. So as you think about those two magic tricks, which one are you going to master first?